Two stories this week. Tiny football tournament you might have heard of, a celebrity wedding you also might have heard of. Nothing in common on the surface, yet both are actually about, I say, a very similar thing. What happens when you try to control a story, a narrative, and it completely escapes you anyways? FIFA has been running this little football, and it's football, not soccer anymore, because since the US is out, football tournament you might have heard of, or the world's largest sporting event, if you will, while quietly dismantling its credibility, or that tiny piece of credibility that's still been out there somewhere. Goodwill, if you want. Taylor Swift, on the other hand, through the most controlled celebrity event in history, and it became the first major public event, if you will, media event that was mediated almost entirely by AI misinformation. Let's go through both. Saudi Cup, and welcome to another episode here for the Funkit Mindful Media and Communication. And it's been a while, still semester break, so quite irregular right now. Semester returns commences in August, so will the Funkit Pod with weekly episodes then, of course. You can also see this from my, if you're watching the video, my chill, if you will, Muay Thai outfit here, returning to the actual teaching outfits and so on also in August. Okay, let's go into it. So for those who have not followed that tiny little football event that's happening in the US right now, and for those who are here for Taylor, we'll be getting to that soon, but first let's start with the FIFA World Cup. Okay, so what happened? Here's what happened. The US played a team called Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's not two teams, that's just one country that's called Bosnia and Herzegovina, okay? For those who might have been confused. Hello, American friends. Joking, I know it's not everybody. Okay, but so they played, the US won 2-0, 2-0. Great. During the game, their best striker, Balogun, got a red card. And it was a red card for a minor thing. Like, you can give a red card, you don't. Like, actually, most of the public, I would say, were on the side of the US saying, hey, that's not a red card, but okay, if you get a harsh red card like this, you sit one game and then you can play again. That's just the way that's the rules, okay? Especially in a tournament where there's no time for appeals and whatnot. Okay, that's how it is usually, but of course, that's not how it is here, because we're in the US and we've got a head of state who's really into football, who clearly, completely, totally knew who Balogun was before this. He called, allegedly, Trump called Infantino, the president of FIFA, said, my people say there was not a foul, do the right thing. And Infantino said, yep, we're going to use a rule that has never been, well, that has been used once before in 1962 or whatever, in the 60s, to suspend the suspension. So Balogun can play. And as fate will have it, the US lost 1-4 to Belgium. The football world rejoiced, but the US is out, and it told us something. And we will talk about this, because that red card was given by VAR, by the video referee. So yeah, the play was so innocuous, if you will, it wasn't even called a foul. But then the VAR was like, hey, wait a second, there was a contact. That's happening a lot these days at the World Cup, but also in the league games. And then you're like, okay, there was a touch, and then we call it. Okay. Under FIFA's own rules, you might not give it a red card, but it was given. So that happens all the time, right? And I said, until then, everybody was on the page with the US. But it didn't end up like that. And so the phone call happened. Donald Trump calls Infantino to ask people to review the decision and to do what's right, according to him, on his Truth Social. The FIFA Disciplinary Committee, that's how it's called, right? They reversed the ban, no explanation, no statement, no reason given. Balogun plays against Belgium in the round of 16. They lose, so nothing happened, but awesome. The first player since, like I said, 1962, in 64 years, yep, not to serve a suspension after getting a red card at the World Cup. Also something special. Also, by the way, this is not a Balogun thrashing, of course. Like, if he has a chance to play, he should, of course. So nothing against them. The reaction, right? So UEFA's official response: incomprehensible and unjustifiable. And there was a quote, and I continue to quote: when the certainty of rule is no longer guaranteed by its guardians, the integrity of the game is at stake. That's what the UEFA said, the European counterpart to the FIFA. Belgium threatened legal action. Norway's coach Ståle Solbakken It's a bad decision that will hurt the World Cup. 5 bets. He used 5 bets in this quote. International football community understands exactly what just happened, right? So the punchline here is basically that the US still lost 4-1, which again, football won in this case. Balogun played the match, didn't play well. 64 years of precedent broken by a presidential phone call for a result that didn't change. From a communication standpoint, FIFA's entire institutional value proposition here is that rules apply equally, right? That's the idea. But one phone call just proved that it's not the case. And the outcome being irrelevant makes it even worse, not better. And there's actually this super famous referee from back in the day. Now he's like the head referee, overseer, whatever it's called, Pierluigi Collina, right? And Collina says, let me check this. Nobody can claim the FIFA refereeing can be influenced by anyone, not even by the FIFA president. He said this during this tournament after the ban reversal. He still says that. That's the most spectacular piece of bad timing in sports communication this year, possibly longer. So what this tells us about communication is that two things, actually, and I come to it and I conclude in a second. But it tells us that FIFA expects us to believe whatever they're putting out, right? They're like, you'll forget about it again in a day. And the outrage was so big for like a day, maybe two, because we didn't have more time since the reversal, right? But then now it's completely gone. No one's talking about it anymore. And this is not a sports podcast, so I'm just saying communication-wise, that is very interesting, that the FIFA doesn't even have to care about what we think, what people communicate, what people put out, because in a day or two, it's going to be all gone anyways. All the coaches were disappointed. Thomas Tuchel, the German coach from England, talked about it. People like Belgium and the UEFA, they were thinking about like suing FIFA. Yeah, and now no one cares anymore. It's all gone. I'll wrap it up in a second, what I think about this, and from a commerce point of view, but that's just very interesting, and we might have a few ideas already which communication theories we can apply to that in a second more to this. I have one more football block here, though, before we go to Taylor, which is the continuation of different rules for different people. And that's also a communications issue, okay? So what happened? We had Argentina famously being the nation in which Messi plays, right? And of course, Messi, the biggest star on the planet right now when it comes to football. And of course, the FIFA wants Messi to go as far as possible, break all the records, sell more merch, make more money for FIFA, and so on. So the conspiracy is that FIFA gets an easy bracket, and so far they haven't faced any top 10 opposition in the whole World Cup. And they're in the quarterfinals now playing Switzerland. If they beat Switzerland, they will be the first team ever at a World Cup to reach a semifinal without playing any top 10 nation. Interesting. Coincidence, of course. And then Argentina versus Egypt, the game, the round of 16, right? Egypt leads 2-0, 2-0 with, what was it, 11 minutes remaining or something like that. Argentina scored twice. Egypt in the end, I think, also equalizes one more time. Goal disallowed by VAR. Fouls that were done by Argentina on Egypt, which should have resulted in a penalty, for example, not called, not given, no VAR saying, hey, there was a foul, nothing. A disallowed goal, and I have the notes here. Marwan Attia ruled to have stepped on Lisandro Martinez's foot during the build-up, like a marginal call, borderline at best, and the same thing happened vice versa, and then it was not a no call. So Argentina goes through, Egypt goes home. The aftermath, and I quote, Egypt's Football Association says, serious refereeing mistakes and double standards. Egypt's coach, actually, and I have his name here, Hossam Hassan, says after the match, there may have been pressure on the referee to keep Argentina in the tournament. So he alleges that his team was cheated. It becomes an international story within hours. He also threw up the X, which indicates racial abuse, and which usually means the referee should step in, pause the game, investigate. Referee gave a yellow card, I think, allegedly to the coach and called to play on. Now, from a communications point of view, right? Whether Argentina actually had favorable treatment is almost besides the point, and not a sports podcast. If you're on sports podcast, check out the Tactic, TIK podcast. Every Monday, I talk about sports stuff there from a coach's point of view, since I've been a coach for over 20 years. So check this out. But the point is, enough people believe it, right, that Argentina is being treated favorable. And it could be, enough people believe that it could be true, so that the accusations right now are automatic. So even if Argentina now wins the game, the match against Switzerland, and they go to the semifinals and they win the semifinal, if they become world champions, there will be an asterisk next to it for a little bit. Of course, we will forget about it, but for right now, it will be like, yeah, of course they're winning it because Infantino wanted them to win. Okay? Every tight call now involving Argentina restarts the same debate across social media, football media, fan communities globally. It will always be the same communication, debate. And the conspiracy theories don't thrive in environments of high institutional trust, and this trust has been broken by the FIFA with the Balogun red card reversal, with what's been happening with Argentina. Yeah, so those conspiracies, they thrive when institutions have given you reason to doubt them, and right now we have lots of reasons to doubt Argentina. The FIFA has now in the same tournament reversed a suspension after a presidential phone call and had its refereeing chief say nobody can influence them when clearly they were being influenced. The Argentina-Egypt situation and the Balogun situation are not connected at all, but they're happening to the same institution in the same 1 week span, 1 week span. Yeah, credibility does not absorb 2 hits like this. And like I said in the intro, credibility with the FIFA was like marginal from decades of corruption. And now it's getting smaller and smaller as we talk. Question though is, does it matter? Or we will forget about it because tomorrow we'll see another highlight reel of Messi's awesome goal against Switzerland, for example, and then we're just replaying this all the time, and we don't care about the FIFA meddling anymore. For those who are still interested in how institutional trust actually works, it takes years to build. It takes a long time to build trust. That's why trust is so important. That's why in communication, marketing, PR, what you name it, we always say you have to build trust with your audience. If there's no trust, they won't listen to you. And building trust is hard. Cracking trust is pretty easy, right? So it takes one visible exception to the rules to crack. One cracked, every subsequent claim of independence sounds like either naivety or dishonesty. And both isn't good for your institution. And I come back one more time to Colina's quote, nobody can influence us. That's what he said. It would have been reassuring 2 weeks ago, maybe, before the tournament started, maybe. Now it really reads as a provocation. And that is not good communication. Okay, but enough of the World Cup for now, because I know why you're here. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Taylor Swift's wedding and the cone of silence, if you will. So what happened? I have a few facts written down so that I don't get it wrong. I'm not the biggest Swiftie, but even I could not escape it. So if I can escape it, it definitely is worth talking about, because my algorithm is actively built to avoid Taylor Swift, and I couldn't. So let's talk about it. I think it was July 3rd, was it? At Madison Square Garden in New York City, New York. Where else? Where the reigning defending NBA world champions are being hosted, or where there's their home Also kind of funny that NBA champions are called world champions. Also, another NBA communications theory, conspiracy there. Did they really do this all by themselves? Who knows? Who's to say? But we're here to talk about Taylor Swift. So, Taylor Swift marries Travis Kelce. We've been there now. We've seen the TNT marketing label just married thingy. They had around, I have it down, around 1,000 guests, black tie, I think it was, according to what I found. And of course, we know that Adam Sandler officiated. Which religion does Adam Sandler belong? How does it? So billboards outside, MSG lit up, just TNT. Great ads for TNT. Just married, Empire State Building went all colored. And we see $26 million donated to 20 charities on the day. Nice. And 0 authorized photos, 0 media access, complete information lockdown. Interesting. Why? Well, of course, your wedding should be personal, should be private. Of course, that's why you're marrying inside of Madison Square Garden in the middle of New York City, in the media mecca of the world. But besides that, let's look into what actually happened with this lockdown. Lots of AI-generated wedding photos that started circulating within hours, of course, but convincing enough that major outlets had to debunk them using, Google. Google has like DeepMind's Synth ID watermarking tool. It's like a piece of technology that exists so that you can actually verify whether an image is AI generated or not. There were TikToks that were showing like wedding decor, flower arrangements, table settings. None of them was real. Anonymous sources with like fabricated details picked up and repeated across entertainment media everywhere. And Salon described it as, quote, the first celebrity event mediated almost entirely through misinformation. That's the actual phrase being used. And that was what I found to be very interesting. Because if you look at like it from a comms point of view, communications point of view, there's a thing in communication theory. It's like nature abhors a vacuum. Okay, so does the internet, right? In 2026, that means remove authorized information and AI generation content films this space immediately at scale, convincingly enough to require specialists to debunk it. And Taylor Swift's entire brand is built on narrative control. Album cycles, Easter eggs, the fan community as co-authors of her story. It works brilliantly when she feeds the machine enough to keep it pointing in the right direction. But if you remove the feed entirely and the machine doesn't stop, it generates its own content. Content she has no control and no ability to correct in real time. So why do it like that? I have theories as well. Before I show you my theories, though, lots of backlash happened there, of course. Right? Once that hit the airwaves, so to speak, it was a confirmed guest that his name, let me check, I wrote it down, Stephen Dimitriou, Executive Chair of Amentum Services. And Amentum operates Camp East Montana, an ICE detention facility in El Paso, Texas. And this now becomes a major social media story within, 24 hours or so, right? Significant backlash from Taylor Swift's mostly progressive fan base. Taylor Swift says nothing, officially quiet, standard approach, sure. But in a news cycle already running on misinformation and speculation, the silence reads differently. It doesn't read like, well, I don't care about this. I don't care about what you guys make of it. It reads like, ooh, I want to be quiet about this. I'm scared to say something. So we're having all the AI misinformation coming out, which already hits the airwaves. Then we have this one fact that we can cling onto that that's real. Like, but why aren't you saying anything about this right now? Why don't you say what happened? Why is he there? Well, Yeah, and so both are mixing up now and like being repeated on social media. And now we had one more dimension, because what would be a celebrity event without a Trump connection? So the Trump dimension here. Hours after the wedding, the Trump administration releases online parodies, posts, memes, I don't know what you call it, referencing Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift responds. The response itself becomes the story. What does it mean? Is she taking a position? Why now? Why this? What's up? Her fan base, which of course contains lots of people with a lot of different political views, starts fighting with itself. So the whole cone of silence, don't say a word, didn't prevent the political story. It just meant she had no established communication channel to respond to when it arrived. So when you try to shut everything down and then something happens, how are you responding to it if there's no established communication channel, if you're being quiet the whole time? It's out of your hands. And there's been another addition, and I had to actually research a little bit on that, so I hope I got it right, because again, not a Swiftie, but I found it interesting. A close musical collaborator, his name, Jack Antonoff, was absent from the wedding. If you collaborate with someone really often, what's happening? A few days later, news break that Antonoff and Margaret Qualley had separated. So it's not the main story, but even, absences at a lockdown event become news, because if you don't give us anything, we are trying to find something. And that's just how it works. You cannot control what people notice is missing. They all talked about like your former best friend being there, and I'm not too deep into that, but that was a big story. So if people make something about that, people will also look into, hey, who's not there? Who didn't walk the red carpet? Who didn't snuck in somewhere? Again, not going down conspiracy holes. There are different channels for this. Just explaining that if you try to control the narrative the whole time, and now you try to control it by not saying anything, by not dropping anything, by not Easter egging, by not doing what your fans are used to, then they will dig. They will try to find things. They will, and while that might be one of the intentions that you might have had as Taylor Swift, like make people dig and consume more content, sure. But now they also create their own content. AI is here. AI will not go away anymore. So now they create their own content. They create what they think should be there, what they might have seen, what they thought of. And good luck trying to control this while being quiet. So let me connect the threads, okay? FIFA and Taylor Swift both try to control what the public saw and knew. Different context, of course, same strategic impulse. Manage the information, manage the story. FIFA managed it by ignoring its own rules quietly and hoping nobody made the connection. Instead, the defining story of the tournament and the permanent damage to their like what are they called? Independent narrative. What Colina said, right? He's like, we're independent, no one can influence us. So nobody believes it anymore. You can clearly be influenced. Taylor Swift managed it by removing all authorized access instead, of like just quiet and a few things that came out from people close to her. We have the first major celebrity event experienced primarily hard work through AI-mediated images, AI-generated content. So through content that was not taken there. Sit with it for a second. Lots of things you see about that event aren't real. And we're okay with it? Why? We talked about this on this podcast before, why we're okay with it. Yeah, so this is a rhetorical / reflective question. And if you're not sure about the answer, we will talk about this soon on a different episode. There's this concept that you probably heard of. If you're listening to a podcast like this, you're familiar with the Streisand effect, of course. Yeah, if you're trying to suppress something or control information, then it draws more attention to it than leaving it alone. Sure, it's named after Barbara Streisand, while she was trying to suppress like those aerial photos of her Malibu home back in 2003, I think, around that time. And so it made it globally famous, of course. And both stories I'm talking about right now are kind of like variations of it, right? the suppression created the story. The control attempt became the thing that people talked about. You're trying to control it, ignore it, lie about it. And so we're pointing our finger on that. We're putting a finger on that wound. Now, in both cases, the thing being protected didn't need protecting. The football was still good. The event still happened. Balogun played and the US lost anyways. Swift and Kelsey are married regardless of what the AI images look like. So the results, the outcome didn't change. But the strategies used by both parties created the exact problems they were designed to prevent. And that's the communications lesson. Probably won't stop anyone from trying the exact same thing again next time, but it really should. That was me during the holidays ranting or talking about what's happening in my feed. One thing that I actively follow, another thing that I actively ignore, and yet it made it into my feed, so we had to talk about it. That's it for this week. Let me know what you think about the FIFA corruption and coincidences, and also about what you think about my Taylor Swift explanation in regards to how the communication went bad and what they should have done better. Shout out in the comments, at FunkedPod everywhere. I want to say it back next week. Not sure. Definitely back in 2 weeks when the semester kicks off again. Until then, stay safe, take care, talk soon. Sawadee ka.